Our first guest is Senator Tim Scott, Republican of South Carolina. Senator, you're on the Banking, Finance, and Small Business and Entrepreneurship committees, so we're for sure in your wheelhouse. Senator Scott, welcome to Axios.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Mike. Good to see you again.
So, Senator, you were early on the idea of financial literacy, calling it out, promoting it, talking about why it's important. What put you onto that?
Well, as a kid who was raised in a single-parent household mired in poverty, I got to tell you that the issue of financial literacy is something that I wish I would have understood earlier in life. It was really in my 20s before I started really understanding and appreciating that what you look like on paper might be more important than what you look like in person. And so financial literacy has so much to do with your future success and your present opportunities. And having not learned those lessons early in life, I wanted to make sure that a part of my focus is on making sure that Americans today, no matter what their income, they have access to financial literacy. And frankly, the more you find yourselves in marginalized communities, the more important financial literacy really is.
Senator, there's a lot of conversation about financial inclusion. What can the U.S. government do or should do to promote financial inclusion?
Well, the opportunity to focus on financial inclusion is something that we've done legislatively. I think there are remedies that really levels a playing field without reversing discrimination in any way, shape, or form. We focus on financial inclusion, for an example, for our veterans who put their lives on the line, oftentimes find themselves at a disadvantage when it comes to loans and access to credit. We think about those folks who today are credit worthy, but they are credit invisible. So we want to make sure that more of your information finds itself into the credit scoring agency's hands so that if you're credit worthy, you have access to more products within the portfolio because you've earned it. And so we want to help those who are credit worthy have more access to opportunities. And so financial inclusion is really about those who should have access to lower interest rates and better terms get that opportunity without any question.
And Senator, you've lived this as both someone you point out grew up with a single parent and also started your own business.
Absolutely. There's no doubt, Mike, that the truth is that had it not been for financial literacy in my early 30s, I would not have been able to start that business. I remember walking into a bank and asking for the manager to believe in my dream, to believe in my vision, to look at my work that I've done in the insurance business and give me a chance to own my own agency. And one of his first questions was, "What's your credit score?" And I started talking about lots of things. He said, "What are your assets?" And when I said that my asset was a 9-year-old car with 253,000 miles on it, he was like, "Seriously, dude, that's not an asset." He didn't say those words, but I think that's what he meant, because he smiled a lot, and then he walked me through the importance of being credit worthy, and my credit score was decent, didn't have the assets, but he helped me understand the importance. And then I had a couple of small business owners who are mentors who also injected into that situation hope through an investment in my business that got me started, and then the bank came back to the table. So it's so important to have healthy relationships and a healthy relationship with a financial institution so that your dreams have a better chance of becoming true.
And Senator, you recently did something that's rarely done in Washington. You got 50 members of your own party on a bill. That is something that is rarely seen in science.
Yes. Working on behalf of everyday folks, if you think about the 3 letters you never want to see in your mailbox, it's the IRS. And having more letters delivered to more mailboxes because of the new reporting requirements coming from the IRS to your financial institutions, I wanted to preemptively make that an impossibility, getting 50 Republicans on in about 24 hours, and then talking to a few of my colleagues on the other side, we were able to get that part of this taxing and spending bill out of it, and that was really good news. I hope it stays out. It also sends a negative message to 7 million unbanked Americans who would be in fear that getting involved in the financial institutions of this country makes you more likely to be audited. That is a scary proposition and something that would actually reduce our reliance on our banking system. And so eliminating that with all 50 Republicans and a couple of my friends on the other side, I think will actually encourage those 7 million people to look for a way to get involved in our financial institutions.
And Senator, you mentioned unbanked people, and I've heard you talk a lot about that over the years. When you go home, that's a very real issue in South Carolina.
Yeah, Mike, I tell you what, the percentage of South Carolinians who are unbanked is around 16, 17%. That means nearly 1 out of every 5 South Carolinians do not have a good relationship or any relationship with a financial institution. That means that they're using cash to transact their business. That A, could be dangerous, and B, means that they're not able to avail themselves to the entire portfolio that might be available at their financial institution. So we want to find ways to encourage that credit invisible or those who are unbanked to become a part of the system so that they and their kids get to benefit from the excellent opportunities that are afforded to people who have that relationship. And we saw that, frankly, Mike, during the pandemic, that having a relationship with your financial institution, especially as small businesses, was really important to getting your PPP loan approved and then forgiven in record time.
And Senator, I think there's a lot of people, including maybe some of our guests today, who don't realize that there are Americans who are basically excluded from the global financial system. But that's something that you're very familiar with.
I've lived that reality of being outside of the financial systems for probably half of my life almost. The older I get, the harder it is to say that, of course. But I will say this, that for millions of Americans around our country who need more help, need more resources, need more access to loans and opportunities, it is imperative upon us in the positions that we hold to make it easier for those who are credit worthy to get the credit they need. You think about home ownership and the disparities between the races. One of the ways that we bridge that gap is not by extending loans to people who cannot afford it, but helping those who can be a part of the system and helping those who have been repaying their rent on time and their electric bill on time and their cell phone on time. That information should be scored by the credit agencies, the credit scoring agencies. And when that happens, you have more people who have the beauty of experiencing the American dream, building equity in their largest asset, their homes, and closing the wealth gap. That erases a lot of the ills of society in and of itself. And so we're going to continue to work hard on that topic.
Senator, I have to ask you on behalf of our audience for a very practical tip. If I want to improve my credit standing, if I'm a young person who's maybe entering the workforce or a young entrepreneur, what's one of the biggest things, clearest things, simplest things that I can do to make myself more credit visible?
Well, one of the things that you can do to make yourself more credit visible, number one, is get a copy of your credit report. One of the things I started with when I was a youngster was I got a copy of my FICO score so I would understand, A, what's being reported, B, is it accurate, and C, how can I change it? Really important first step is knowing where you are. The second step is then evaluating your need for credit. If you have high credit limits, whether that's $500 or $50,000, the closer you are to your credit limit, the worse your score will be. The more open accounts you have with lots of credit access, it can also have a negative impact on your credit score. So, and of course, pay your bills on time, including your student loans, because sometimes you think your loans are grants and they're not, so they need to be paid. And so just making sure that you are as disciplined on that 30-day cycle as humanly possible. Sometimes you have too much month left at the end of the money, and that can make it hard. So we need to do those things that are within our control.
That's a good tweet right there, Senator. And as we say goodbye, you have a little expression that I think will be encouraging to the people who are watching this and learning from this. And that is when we were miking up based on the recent election results, I said to you, it's a great time to be a Republican. And you said to me,
it's a better time to be an American. And I think the goal we should have is to focus on making progress by prioritizing what the American people need, not Republicans or Democrats. I'm far more interested in being a happy warrior, and happy warriors get things done. And so that's my goal. My goal is to be a happy warrior and think more about the American people than I do partisan politics.
and Senator, a piece of life advice that I liked when you said, it's always a good time to be yourself.
Oh, yeah, I said happy warrior, but yeah, I do think that's really important. By the way, Mike, as we end, it's always a good time to be yourself. It's, winning in Virginia was a big deal for lots of Republicans, and that's a good thing, but it's always a good time to just be comfortable in your own skin. Doing so gives you deference towards other people, allows you to sincerely and authentically fight for the things that you believe in. And frankly, the more comfortable you are in your own skin, the more likely you are to listen to others who are not like you. Because if you're comfortable, you know that you're flawed as well. So having a chance to have honest conversations in the public forum will make our country stronger and more resilient from my perspective.
Senator Scott, thank you for sharing your thoughts with Axios.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon, I hope.